Welcome to Macrocode, and today we are going to understand the life cycle of dependency injection in ASP.NET Core. So to implement dependency injection, we did a video about dependency injection in our previous session, so you can consider watching how to do that in the video below. So dependency injection has a life cycle in ASP.NET Core application. So we usually use AddTransient, AddScoped, and AddSingleton to actually define the life cycle of dependency injection. So dependency injection is a technique for achieving loosely coupling between objects and their collaborators or dependencies. So we often declare their dependencies via the constructor and allowing them to follow the explicit dependencies principle. So we usually mostly do the constructor injection. So on our video that we posted, we actually did a constructor injection. So dependency injection container usually has to decide whether to return a new instance of the service or provide an existing instance. So on our application that we did, so today we are going to, we'll be going to create a new application. So I launch our Visual Studio. So we did a video about dependency injection, so you can check on our previous videos. So we can create a new application using ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller. Then this is, we can call this DI life cycle. So you can use ASP.NET 6.0. Then you can create new. So the life cycle of the service depends on when the dependency is instantiated and how long it lives. So, and lifetime depends on how we have registered those services. So we have three life cycle methods of dependency injection. So there are actually three methods to define the lifetime of the services. One is the AddTransient. So the transient lifetime services are created each time they are requested. So the lifetime works best for lightweight, stateless services. Then we have the AddScoped. Scoped lifetime services are usually created once per request. Then AddSingleton. So singleton lifetime services are created the first time they are requested. So since we have created our application on ASP.NET Core using .NET Core 6, so we'll create, so we are going to create so let's create a folder. Let's create a folder for interfaces. So we are going to create three interfaces. One, you can add new item, then interface, then we call these iSingleton service. So we are going to create interface for each of the methods. Add iSingleton service. So this is our interface. So inside this interface, we want to generate a GUID. So we can GUID, then we say get current GUID. Get current GUID as a method. So this one will give us the current GUID. So we can create another one called AddScoped services. So that one will give us new item, then AddScoped service. Then we do the same. So you can copy these here. AddScoped. Then we have transient. New item is actually an interface. You can call it iTransient. AddTransient service. Then we add that. You can also paste the method there. So since we have this, we can now create a class to implement all these interfaces. So we can create another folder called services. Services. Then inside these services, we can create a class that will implement those interfaces. So we can call this class caller service. Caller service. Can call it caller service. Then we want to implement all those interfaces. So we want AddTransient. So let me just copy one of the name here. So I'm sure we need to import, sorry. So I'll do that. Yeah, you will get the error because of the AddScoped. Then we have AddSingleton service. So we can get our current GUID, then current. So let's say current GUID. So we just declare. So we need to implement so let's get our constructor caller. That is it. So inside this constructor, we can assign our current GUID to a new GUID. Then we need to have our method public GUID get current GUID. So that is it. So this has to return GUID. So inside here we return the current GUID. So that is it. So our error is gone. So now we need to register the caller service via those three interfaces under the program.cs. So we need to add our services to the container. So here we need to register them here. So we'll do builder.services.add. So one of the method is AddTransient. So on AddTransient, we will add our AddTransient controller, interface, then pass our caller service. So this one, let's see. So let's copy it, that we have the exact name. Then caller service, let's copy it. Then we have it. So you can see we have now registered AddTransient. As we said earlier, AddTransient method, lifetime, usually it is actually created each time they are requested by HTTP request. So it is actually best for lightweight stateless services. So that's it. So we need to register another one. So let's copy this. We can register AddScoped. Then you can pass AddScoped service. You can register the last one, which is AddSingleton. Then you can copy AddSingleton here. So what is the issue with these? These are actually all these, and we usually define them this way. sorry for that, and all these are methods. So you do this. So this is a method. You do this, and this is a method. So that is how we have actually registered it. So we are ready to inject those services into our controller. So for better understanding, we will inject 2 instances of each service in the controller of that is our home controller here. So then we will call the get current GUID method for each service instance and assign it to our viewback so that you can see the value in the UI. So okay, let's proceed and now inject those services. So you can private read only. So here we'll provide our AddTransient service, then we call it _transient. We can copy these, then we can have it here. Can have AddScoped, then here will be scoped. Can have an underscore. Can copy this and say singleton, then singleton, and have this as that. So that is it. So we need to have it on our controller here. There we are. So we have AddScoped, Singleton, and we need transient here. Transient, then transient service. So here we'll now take a transient service here. The transient service. So I want us to do something. I want us to have these as a double, so we can call it 1, 1, 1. This will be on our first request so that we are able to see the changes. So we can inject our second. So let's do this 2, 2. So here we can drop these here. So we can have these as 1, 1, 1. So we can as well copy these. We also do this. Can have these as 2, 2, 2. So here we'll have 1 and 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 1. Then we can also assign this to our second. Can have these as 2. Can have these as 2. These as 2. So we are doing this so that you're able to see the changes by HTTP request. This is 2. This is 2. So we can now have these on our index. So we want our view viewBag dot can call transient one is equals to, so we can now assign this to a transient one service. Then we get the GUID, get current GUID, then we convert this to string. So that is it. So can do this for every, so I can get the transient 2 should go with our 2. So that is all for transient. So we can copy these, then we do for scoped. So I can call scoped 1, then scoped 1, then this will be scoped 2, then this will be scoped 2. So that is it for scoped. So we can do for singleton. So singleton 1, we can do singleton 2. This will be singleton 1, is singleton 2. So that is it. So what we need to do, we need to add some changes on our view page so that it displays the 3 services that we call here. That is the request, and check the request. So come to our view under index. So we need to change this view. So what we'll do, you can put in some headers here. We call these dependency injection lifetime. So then we can have our div here. Then let's do table. So you can give it a class table, and table bordered. Then here we can have our table head. Then we can have our table row. Then our table head here. So here we can say service type. Then we can have first instance operation ID, then second instance. These are first and second. Remember, we have defined for the first and second instances. So then our table body. Now our table. Then we need to define our table data. So we can give it some styling. Let's say background color. Can have a background color. Then we give it gray. Let's have a light gray, that's fine. Then this one here will be singleton. So this is singleton. So this is our service. So for singleton, this is our service type. Then we have so we need to get now the view data, viewBag for our singleton. So we can have viewBag dot singleton 1. So we want to see the GUID for those 3. These will be 2. Then we can do scoped. So we'll copy this table row here. Then we can do scoped. So you can change this to light, another color, light green. Then this will be scoped 1 and scoped 2. Then we can do another one for transient. So this will be transient. So you can have another color here. This is should be light green. Alright. Green. So I'll do this. Change the color for these. So for a transient, you can choose another color, light. You can take light blue. Yeah. You can take these, yeah. Then these will be transient 1 and transient 2. So ensure that these view bug. So let's confirm singleton 1, transient 1. Make sure that you have the correct names. So that is fine. So we can actually execute now our application. So once we execute the application, we'll see 2 different GUIDs that are displayed for their respective service types. So now we run 2 instances of UI in 2 different tabs of the browser. So we call it request 1 and request 2. So we'll run these 2 in different tabs. So for the first tab, let's execute our application. So it has launched. So there we are. So you can see we have executed the first tab. So you can see singleton. This is the first instance operation. We have our GUID ID here. We have our second instance. You see we have. So I want you now to keep in touch of the IDs. So you see we have for the singleton, the ID and this ID is the same. For the scoped, this ID and this ID is the same. For the transient, this ID and this one are 2 different IDs. So the next thing that we need to do, let's launch this on our different tab. So I now want us to see the difference. So you can see on this tab, we have the 4BD, this ID. So if we come to a second tab, you'll see this ID is the same with this one. So keep in mind, so this one and this one is the same. So on our scoped, this ID here is the same, but it's unique on our next tab. So you see it is different on our next tab. When you come on transient, on scope, the ID is first on the first instance and the second instance is the same, but it's actually different on a different HTTP request. So you can see it is totally different, but it is the same on the first instance and the second instance. But for the transient, the ID on the first instance is different with the second instance. And it is actually totally different as well on the first instance, on our second HTTP request, and the first instance and on the second instance. So the singleton service, only one instance is created and shared across the application. So this service is created once and shared across the application, no matter how you request this. So if you paste this again to our we make another HTTP request, you'll see that this instance is still the same. So it is created only once and shared across the application. So if we click on refresh button here, or load the UI on the different tab of our browser, which which is actually like a request, an HTTP request, the ID will remain the same for the singleton. So you'll see it is actually the same. But for scoped and transient, try to check it how it will change. You see, it actually changes. But for the transient, for the singleton, it is the same. So that is for the singleton. So keep in mind, for the singleton, only one instance is created and shared across the application. So if you click or refresh the button, you will actually see the same ID. So for the scoped service, a single instance is created per request, and the same instance is shared across the request. So if a single instance is created and shared across the request. So on our second instance, you'll see we have the same. It is actually the instance is created per request. That is, on every HTTP request, it is created, but it is shared on our second. Is shared across the request. So you will see it is actually created and shared on our application. So that is why operation ID are the same for the first instance. This one, it is the same for the first instance, and as well for the second instance. So, but if we click on refresh button here, you'll notice that the UI will load a new ID, but it is now same for the first instance and the second instance. So it is actually created once and shared across the application. So for the transient, always it returns a new instance, even though it's the same requests. So if it is, you see, if we just refresh the browser, you'll see it always returns a new ID, and every request that you make, it is not shared across the application. Everywhere that is the service is requested, a new instance is created. So what you need to understand about these three methods. For the transient, new instance is created on a given HTTP request, and new instance is actually created even on across different HTTP requests. For the scoped, in the scoped, the same instance is created on a given HTTP request, and a new instance is created across different HTTP requests. For the singleton, same instance is created on a given HTTP request, and same instance is actually shared across different HTTP requests. So that is the difference between singleton, scoped, and transient. So if you haven't understood this, you can post some question down below, then we will actually try to answer. But if you haven't subscribed to our videos and our channel, consider subscribing, share, comment, and wait for more videos. So that is it, guys, and thank you for your support. See you in our next session.